All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone had a wonderful long weekend. We are back this morning with another episode of Open Book Broadcast, where we talk about anything and everything to do with writing and publishing your book, and we're an open book about it. Today, I'm by myself, no guest today, but there will be one next week. And today, I want to talk about what's at the heart of memoir. And you'll see that I've got this HE kind of in lowercase and ART in uppercase. And here's the thing. To me, at the heart of memoir is healing that's turned into art. Okay. And that's what the HE stands for. Healing comes first and then it turns into art. Okay. Healing and then art. Now, why do I say that? I say that because most memoir, if you've been paying attention, has to do with adversity, challenge, trauma, things that the narrator or the author has overcome in their life that they are now leveraging to tell a compelling story that then hopefully inspires the reader towards change, a new way of thinking, hope, a number of things, right? But in order for that memoir to kind of hold together and have a lot of weight, and for the reader to really kind of take in what the author is sharing with them, the memoir has to come from a place of healing. All right. When we have healed from a past wrong or injustice or trauma, we are able to then tell a story that is balanced, is the best way that I'm going to put this. It's balanced in that it's not just all one-sided in terms of our feelings. It's not all one-sided in terms of our thoughts. There's a type of reflection or insight or nuance and complexity of the material that we're engaged with when we're telling the story, because we've come to a place where we can look at it and see it from multiple angles. Let's take an example, for instance. In my book, Dear Universe, I Get It Now. Okay, Letters on the Art and Journey of Being Brave and Being Me. I cover a range of topics inside that book. I talk about sexual assault. I talk about miscarriage. I talk about divorce. Those are just a few of the heavy hitters that come up in my book of Letters to the Universe about life lessons. If I had written Dear Universe right after the assault or right after the miscarriage or right after my divorce or while I was going through any of them, my narrative that I had to offer to my reader would be chaotic. It would be confusing. It would be full of overwhelming emotion. It probably wouldn't be very organized. It would be all over the place, right? Because when we're in the middle of a mess, that's pretty much what we are, right? We're all over the place. We have a hard time understanding what our thoughts and feelings are because there's so many of them happening all at once. So it would be pretty hard to write a memoir that's really artistic and well crafted and intentional when we're at the peak of all of the emotions that we're experiencing in the midst of some of life's hardships, right? So we have got to heal in order to actually turn that moment that we've gone through into something that's meaningful and well done that a reader can get around. If we come across something in our life and we try to talk about it right away, that can be good for venting. It can be good for sharing. It can be good for getting it out of our head for us to not internalize, but it's probably not ready for publication. It's probably not ready to be on the shelf. It's probably not ready to be consumed by another person. Because at the end of the day, what we have to remember, of course, is that our book is a product for sale. And there's somebody on the other side of that sale that wants to read the book and wants to get something out of it for them, right? How many times do we hear in almost any industry or business that it's all about the customer, right? And the customer is asking themselves, what's in it for me? And it's not any different than when they're purchasing your book. What's in it for me? So in order for you to write a book that a reader will be able to understand has any kind of meaning for them, has any kind of relevancy to their own journey, you need to be able to write it that way. And we can't often do that when we're in the thick of it. So I'm going to just pop into the comments before I move on to this next piece, where you can go and check out my book, Dear Universe, I Get It Now. You can order it directly through me. You can also find it in a number of other places. So that's in the comments for you. Now, one of the things that I found interesting about thinking about this idea of where do we write from, the place that we write from, right? A lot of people will say, well, what about if I journal? What if I capture a bunch of things as I'm going through it? That's all really, really great. Okay. Journaling is very useful for healing when we're going through something. It's very useful to get ideas out of our head and really make sense of things, for organization, categorization, for taking a step back and getting some distance. It's also really good record keeping, so that when you are ready to write the book, you can go back and you can remember what your mindset was, what certain dates were, order of events, that kind of thing. So I would never say don't write anything while you're going through it. But I think that there's a difference between writing to heal and writing to publish. And that's the thing that I want people to kind of differentiate between. Journaling and getting thoughts down on the page as a part of your own recovery or healing process is very different than writing words that you anticipate publishing for sale for a reader that you have to market and put out there into the world as a final product, right? One of the best ways that I have heard this described was actually by Elizabeth Gilbert, a worldwide known memoirist, right? The woman that wrote Eat, Pray, Love, that lots of people have known and heard. And she's written other memoirs and other nonfiction books. And she was at this self-development retreat that I went to at the end of March. And she described it as like drafting from the wound, but publishing from the scar, more or less. And the point being that we can pour our heart and our soul into words onto the page as a part of our process. Get it all out there, right? Let it be raw, let it be emotional, let it be unbalanced, let it be full of rage, let it be full of sadness, like whatever it is. But when it comes to publishing, we need there to be some cleanup of whatever it is that we just regurgitated onto the page in the initial instance, right? We need to think about word choice. We need to think about clarity of message. We need to think about the organization and flow of the material. We need to think about whether or not the narrator is reliable and coming across as somebody who is no longer in a state of maybe bitterness or resentfulness or revenge, right? We need the reader to empathize with the author and also hear that reflective thought that they're bringing to the page, via the insight that's been gained in the period of time between going through the trauma and writing about it. There has to be a healthy distance, a period of time between actually being there in the thick of it and then making it art and allowing it to transcend oneself and be given over to the reader as a gift. Now, how much time is that? I don't know. I don't have a concrete answer. It's all going to be dependent on your own individual journey, right? Some people, bounce back and feel steady, a few months or maybe a year after something really traumatic happens. Other people take a lot longer. Other people know that they need to get into see a therapist, for instance, or a healing retreat or whatever, and they are an active participant right away. Other people might not be using as healthy mechanisms for coping or recovery, and it might take them a longer period of time to get to a place where they feel like they can really write about the experience in an artistic way and make it available for the public, right? So that time between healing and art is subjective. It's going to be based on the person, right? So that's one thing. Now, another thing to consider, right, is that a lot of people who have experienced trauma and have post-traumatic stress disorder or complex PTSD, one thing is that like recovery is never really over. Healing is a journey, not a destination, right? And so then it's like, well, when do you write it if you're never actually through the healing journey, right? And again, that's subjective. It's more about can you compartmentalize in a healthy way, kind of from being triggered or being emotionally reactive to what has happened, to remembering what has gone on, to exploring your feelings about said thing, and then being able to actually step away from being in it to looking at it objectively as a writer, and being able to craft it, right? So you can be on the healing journey and writing it for art, but you got to be kind of like on the side of the healing journey where the trauma or the hardship or the challenge isn't controlling you. You're in the driver's seat. That's the best way that I can really put it. So there's not really the expectation that you just like be over it and no longer remember it, or no longer get teary-eyed when you think about it, or it no longer impacts you, or it's like it never happened. That's not what I'm suggesting, but that you are strong enough to recognize where you stand now from where you were then, and the ability to be objective when you're writing this book about that experience from an artistic perspective, from a craft perspective, craft meaning how you write the book. Okay. So we have to heal first, and then we create art later. And healing can look like different things. It can be baths, it can be walks, it can be meditation, it can be yoga, it can be counseling, it can be self-help books, it can be personal development retreats. It can be a number of things. And I would say that it's probably lots of different types of modalities or activities, not just one. But there's different ways for us to explore and participate in our own healing. And then when we feel ready to create art. Now, if you would like more stuff that's juicy like this to help you on your writing journey, then I would really encourage you to please come check out The Right Place, Right Time. Join us over there. If you go to the read page, you can see blog posts, which we put up each month, or you can sign up for our email list, which I would absolutely love. If you sign up for our email list, then you're going to get emails every single week from me with more really wonderful content. So you just head to therightplacerighttime.com, wait for the pop-up, plug in your details. Now, what I want to just leave here with is that one of the requirements for working with me, in case anybody is watching or listening and like, hey, like you my people, and I've got a story to tell and I need somebody to help me with it. I want you to know that healing is kind of a part of the requirement. You have to be ready to do this. You've got to be able to talk about your story and talk about what you've gone through and how you want to write about it in a way that doesn't turn it into a therapy session. Because while I am here for support and for listening and holding a safe space and container, I am not here to necessarily help you in the initial phases of healing through the event that you're now wanting to write about. Okay. So healing is on you. And that's something that you have to already have done by the time that you want to work with me. Other things that you need to have is you need to be an awesome human, and you need to be wanting to write your book now. Like you're feeling like now is the time, and you're ready to like dig your heels in and get going. If you've got a story that requires a shitload of bravery and vulnerability and you're ready to put it out there, then you're totally my person. If you're looking for individualized support that helps you take aligned and intentional action toward the next step in getting your book out there in a way that feels realistic and empowering, then I'm your gal. And if you're ready to invest time and energy and money into actually doing this thing and stop giving this book lip service, then I definitely want to hear from you. All right. So if you want to speak with me because this fits your profile, you're like, oh, she's speaking right to me, this is exactly who I am. Then again, you can reach out on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email at allie@twprt.com. Or you can head over again to therightplacerighttime.com and you can be in touch. All right. I would love, love, love to speak to you about finally writing your book. Lastly, please join me again next week. We are going to be live next Tuesday, July 12th at 10:15 EST with special guest Kiki Ringer, Kiki Ringer, sorry. And I'm so excited to be bringing Kiki on to the Open Book broadcast. She's going to be a wonderful, wonderful guest talking to us about her experience in traditional publishing and now what she's doing next. So it's going to be a really wonderful interview with a sneak peek behind the scenes of traditional publishing with somebody who's been there. So I hope you'll be joining me next week. And I look forward to talking to you again.